Why do the Muslim women cover, right? I go to him, listen, let's stop first. Don't worry about the rules and regulations and that. Let's get back to the core of the problem first of all. The problem is you don't believe in God. Don't worry, every other issue relating to God is not important until you understand God. So let's go back and let's fix that foundation first, and then we'll come back to that question. So what we need to do is here we have to, if we go back to the crux of the matter in your circumstance, let's say, I would say this. I said, brother, now God Himself has made you, made us, made everything, right? Now what does God want? Why did He make you? What is His purpose? If His purpose is in line with your purpose, then it's all fine.
Yeah.
But how do you know His purpose? You know your purpose,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
but how do you know His purpose?
Well,
What did He make you? What does He want from you? And how does He want it from you? Is the next question.
Yeah.
Now this is not something that you can attain by yourself. This is where guidance comes in. That's why God sends, for example, prophets. That's why God sends revelations.
In every lesson, in every second, is there a lesson though? If you're open to the lesson, is God providing those lessons in every second, in every bee, in every bird, in every person, in every word? Is God providing that lesson for you if you're open to acknowledge it with a pure heart?
But your acknowledgement of these circumstances, of these situations, of the things that you're living, is only limited to what you're living.
That's
You
right.
cannot go beyond
The
the scope of...
interpretation.
Yeah, okay,
You
yeah.
cannot go beyond the interpretation.
It's only open
beyond
to
the
his
bounds,
interpretation
beyond the
as
bounds
well.
of what you're living only.
Am I
How
right
do
by
you-
saying, sorry,
Yeah,
am
you
I
can.
right by saying nothing happens by coincidence?
Absolutely
That's
not.
what I'm saying. He's here for a particular reason.
He knows that too, but the thing is too, now you can only be guided by yourself. When you're guided by yourself, we've got to remember this too. If I want to understand the flower, where do I go? I can't just look at the flower and be spiritual about the flower and understand every aspect of the flower, can I? If I go to a florist,
Yeah. I disagree.
I know what you're saying. one aspect, you can probably understand the spiritual realm of what the flower is made for, the purpose maybe. But I'm sure there is knowledge out there that we can gain
Yeah.
about the flower, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There might be somebody who studied that flower that knows every single aspect of that flower.
Yeah.
Whether it be in a spiritual form, and especially if they're religious, they'll tell you all the attributes of that flower and how it resembles God's names, and which ones of God's names it resembles, right? And then it'll tell you every single detail and talk to you about the fragrance and how you can use this flower for which area and how you meant to put it in the soil, and every aspect of a flower. So if we want to understand the flower, where do we go? We go to the florist, realistically speaking.
Yeah.
If we want to understand the physical.
Probably better example would be, let's say, because we're talking about spiritually being self-dependent type thing, right? Let's assume that you got very sick, right? And your pancreas hurts. What do?
No, I maybe haven't explained myself correctly, because I do pray to God.
No.
And I am just, through my experience, I'm not trying to look within and not look at the guidelines. I'm not saying that, but I'm trying to find that the guidelines exist, not just in words in a book. The guidelines exist in every single breath of air.
Yes.
And that the answers are not within, they are provided
Yeah.
if we can
tap into it.
tap into them.
But see, that's
I
a
get
very
it.
Intricate and
that's a
intimate.
very long. There's a long
Process.
process and long method
I
to be
agree.
able
It does
to
happen.
do
It
that.
does, yeah.
But now the guidelines have to be universal for every human being.
Yes.
If you ask everybody to go into a cave for 40 years or 50 years to be in a
They
desert
probably
and
will
then starve
find it like
themselves
that.
and
But
become
they can't be
spiritual.
tested.
No, but if
Yeah.
they were to
Their egos
Yeah,
can't be
try,
tested.
that's right. If they try to be spiritual on that, maybe they might they might be
Enlightenment.
able to attain some type of enlightenment. However, the guidelines are not there. Then it's a very, very long process.
It's almost disrespectful, I feel, to actually not know and read, but I've never had the faith in human beings to actually look at anything that's created by human beings and to have, you know what I mean? It feels disrespectful.
That's
feels
fine.
disrespectful.
But when we say
Yeah.
God, then we're talking about
The
God
creator that
Himself.
knows
He's
you.
the
Yeah.
creator. There's nothing created. There's nothing like we're not talking about human beings' intervention in this process.
Yeah.
Because when you compare with other religions, this is where it
That's
becomes
where
a problem,
we
right?
define, yeah.
When you start going, oh, but there's Hinduism, there's Buddhism, there's Christianity, there's this, there's that,
Yeah.
and then there's Islam, and you put them all in one package, and it becomes wrong.
Yeah.
Because the only true
They all have an interwoven connectedness.
They
It's
do. They
human
all do,
beings that misinterpret
100%.
it.
But the only book that hasn't been changed that is direct God word from God is the Quran.
But then it's open to our interpretation.
It's not open to interpretation. That's where it comes in.
Okay,
That's where the
that's where
guideline
the
comes
prophet
in.
comes
in.
It
Okay.
is open to the interpretation of the prophet,
Okay.
and the prophet is the guideline
It's
to
the
you.
living form of
Is
the
a his
Quran.
living form. Let's say this. The example I wanted to give about doctor is very important. You've got a problem with your pancreas,
Yeah.
right? You go to the doctor because the doctor knows better about your pancreas, right? You might know a little bit of information about your pancreas, but that guy's a specialist.
Yeah.
And you have a need because you have a question about that particular thing, you go to that source.
Yeah.
Now you want to know about yourself. Who made you? Imagine yourself as a machine. Imagine yourself as a television. You go to the guidelines, you open the book and it tells you, oh, this remote does this and this does that, it works via infrared, it does this, it does that. You read the manual to understand the product. Now you are the product of the Creator. And now He wants to give you a manual of who you are. And that's what we say. So pick up the book, we say, you know the manual we're talking about? Your manual of your humanity, of this creation, this book of the universe. You want to read the book of the universe, you want to understand all the mysteries of who you are, not only you, but you're only one small part of the portion of this big picture. Who you are, plant life, animals, creations, the atmosphere, the universe, the spiritual existences, jinns, and all these other realms, 18,000 different realms that we're made up of, right?
Is that like dimensions?
Yeah, dimensions, 18,000 different dimensions that the human being is made up of. How can we tap into these 18,000 different realms?
Mm.
See, maybe this information, let's assume, I just told you one information which now astounded you, I can tell from your face. You know what? 18,000 realms, there's different 18,000 dimensions, right? Now, this comes from guidance. It's not from me. I didn't make this up.
And I can interpret that through my own self.
You can understand it.
I understand it.
It's not just an interpretation, you have to understand it, you have to live it. Once you breathe it and you live it, then you become who you are, right? So the purity of your true essence is going to come from the guidance, because He knows you the best. He gives you information in accordance to what you need,
Yeah.
right? So you say, I want to pray. The guy wants to do somersaults, the other guy wants to lie down, the other guy wants a cigarette. He goes, this is the way I want to worship God.
How does God want you to worship God?
Exactly. How does God want you to worship?
What pleases Him.
Right? Is what is pleasing to Him. But it's you are the product. The product is being made by the Creator. Let's say you're the art and the artist. So if I wanted to know about the art, do I come and ask you about the art? You're the art. Why would I ask you? I ask the artist. The artist made the product, so I'll say, look, why'd you do this for? Why'd you put that there? The guy who made a TV, right? I wouldn't come to Johnny. He's a big businessman or something, anything, right? He might be a doctor. He might be a professor of some other field. But just because he's a professor of the field, it doesn't mean he knows anything about televisions.
Yeah.
He gets his television repaired at the television place.
Yeah.
Because the guy's got the manual, he knows the knowledge of that particular thing. So every particular person might know particular things, but they cannot be universal. They cannot understand all these wonders and the mysteries of this universe. So okay, you might know, I'm here for this particular reason, I want to help him, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? But where do you fit in with everything else in God's picture?
Yeah.
In this big frame and then this big puzzle, where do you fit in? In your own life, you can say, I'm a nice person, I can do this, I can do that, but you will never know your picture unless God tells you where you fit.
Yeah.
Understand? So if everyone saw themselves as a person that is only guided by what is being spoken to them by God, then we have 6 billion different ideologies, and everyone will
Conflicting ideas.
I acknowledge.
So there has to be a universal message for all of humanity with all different types of understandings, a way of life for everyone to live in peace and harmony and love with one another.
So where do I start with reading?
That's a good question. You start first of all by coming and doing what you just did. The first step is to come and ask, and obviously you're a person that is very open and very loving and very accepting too, which is the first thing that comes.
Open and broad-minded and open-hearted, and the rest will come.
That's beautiful. Brother, we're here every Mondays and Wednesdays. You can come and
Have you ever met Luke yet, eh?
I saw him before. I've seen him before.
Luke's actually one of my new business partners, and this is my brother.
Really?
This is actually
Oh,
my blood brother, man.
Brother.
My actual blood brother. Because he met Jack, and you know, Jack always says he's my brother, and I go, he's my brother, and then he goes, I go, no, man, he's just like a, like a brother. But this is my blood brother, by the way.